everyone, and welcome back to Surviving and Thriving the Black Experience, where we will be highlighting the stories beyond our strength, the journeys that remind us who we are, and what we've overcome, and what's possible when purpose meets resilience. Today, we're sitting down with someone whose life embodies transformation at its highest level, Leonard Dungee, co founder and CEO of Hope Hustlers, who's a mentor, an entrepreneur, a leader, and a real estate investor whose story reaches far beyond titles. In 2002, Leonard faced a moment that could have changed everything: incarceration. But instead of allowing this chapter to define him, he made a decision to rewrite his story from the inside out. While behind bars, he became a teacher, a mediator, and a mentor, helping hundreds of men earn their GEDs and resolve conflicts through peace. When he came home in 2008, he continued his mission alongside his mother, the incredible educator and community visionary Gwendolyn Sands. And for more than 20 years, through Hope Hustlers, Leonard has poured into thousands of youth and families, teaching them how to make positive choices, how to see beyond their circumstances, and how to believe in a future bigger than their past. His life is a reminder that mistakes, they don't define us. Our growth does, our rise does, and our purpose does. So today, get ready for a powerful, honest, and uplifting conversation. This is Surviving and Thriving the Black Experience with Candace Renee. Hi, Leonard. How are you?
How you
Like
doing?
I'm all
How you
super
doing? Thanks
serious.
for
So I'm
having
like so excited that you are here. I'm gonna try not to do my fangirl. I'm gonna try not to do it, but I am so excited that you're here, Leonard. I really, really appreciate you coming on. And I do have a question. Can you tell me what the acronym Hope Hustlers would like? Can you tell me what the HOPE stands for?
me. Yes, healthy outreach and positive empowerment.
That's absolutely amazing. That is amazing. So we're gonna go ahead and hop into this conversation. So can you tell us about your upbringing and what shaped your understanding as in regards to manhood as a young Black boy?
Um, I initially was raised in the country by my grandparents. I had both sets of grandparents, and they lived a half a mile apart. We weren't well off, but we weren't poor. You know what I mean? It was just the
Mhm,
country. We made we made it work. And so, but as I got older, I moved. My mom and I moved to the city.
mhm,
I guess I was 14, but I was always an athlete. You know what I mean? I wanted to be a football player, since small
mhm,
child. And so that was kind of my path. But just growing up, we were, you know, we were a happy family.
mhm,
I was always just very, very ambitious, probably too ambitious for my own good. And
mhm.
I like to explore and see places and go thing and do stuff and be outside as they call it. And so, but yeah, that's kind of how I was brought up and from Richmond, Virginia. So um it was a good back then, it was a lot of crime in Richmond at the time. I remember
Mhm.
my dad lived in the north side. My mom moved me way out. Again, I was playing football, but she moved me way out of the city, try to
Mhm.
get me out of that element. But every chance I got, I was back downtown at my dad's house. So, but yeah, and then yeah, went to Hampton. Aspired to play football, didn't quite work out. Um, I met my few who was going to be my wife, didn't know it then, but met her and she I remember and I guess I was going my junior year, she got pregnant, and then I like my uncle said, well, you a man now, bro. So, so, so I had to be I had to take care of business. But so yeah, and so that's kind of, that first phase for me was that when she got pregnant, and then actually we got married, not necessarily in that order,
Mhm.
but and then we had two more kids, and just went on from there. But,
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. I've actually heard of that before, almost like that kind of like I call it like the shotgun wedding, right? Which is like, look, hey, you did what you did. Y'all a couple now. you know, I've definitely heard of that before. Um, when you look back at your younger self, right? What do you wish someone had told you about your identity and purpose?
like I said, I was very ambitious, and somebody, I think I got a lot of reassurance and a lot of love from my family. Sometimes, like I said, my dad was around. Um, both grandfathers were around. So I mean, and uncles. I was raised, in tough love. In the back, men, boys don't cry, men don't cry in that respect. But I also had my grandmothers, and my aunties, my mom, my aunties, and I also had four sisters. So I was surrounded with love. I just, um, yeah, I didn't like that in a sense. I think if somebody could have told me something is that you don't, somebody, if I look back at it, bro, for real. If somebody could tell me that, pour into yourself before you pour into others,
Mm-hmm.
um, because always, looking out for people isn't always good if you're not straight yourself. So
Right. That
I,
absolutely,
I learned that the hard way.
hmm. I mean, and I feel like a lot of people, men and women, and of different races as well, too, actually learn that the hard way because when you are in fact young, you are taught to, in fact, be able to be kind to someone else, right? It's supposed to be like a reciprocal, olive branch before you even know what it is. But unfortunately, as we, grow up, we learn that that's not really what it always is. And I
Right.
don't want to say especially in the Black community, but what I will say is in the Black community, it does happen quite often, unfortunately. So that definitely does happen. Um, what role did community, whether positive or negative, play in who you are and who you became early on? Because I know that you said that you were brought up with like quite a bit of love. You had your father there, you had your mom there, So how do you feel that kind of like, or the role of community as a whole play with that?
I mean, it was different back then. Back I keep saying back then, but that's when you could be you could be out in the neighborhood and somebody else's parents or you know what I mean, other your neighbors could check you. So it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't like when I say I was surrounded, that was love. That's what community used to look like. Is that everybody knew my mama knew all the kids on the block. Parents knew each other. Everybody knew who lived everywhere, and it was a community. If I was around the corner doing dumb stuff with the little homies then they had the opportunity to check me, and they was gonna call my mom or my grandmama, and I had to hear that when I got home. I didn't mean to
Mm-hmm.
curse, I almost cursed,
Oh no, you're
but
fair. You're fine. It's a real conversation. You are fine.
okay, yeah. So yeah, but so that's how I think that's the way it was for us growing up in the '70s, '80s, and '90s.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, yeah, we had more independence. We wanted to be independent. We didn't want to be in the house. We wanted
Yes.
to be outside, and we used to roam the streets all day. Till the street lights came on, then you had to
Mm-hmm.
carry your ass in the house.
That's true.
So
What do you think is this? So this is, I know I said I promise not throw any curveballs, but it's in alignment with what you're saying right now. What is the difference of like what you see now in regards to like the upbringing community as a whole? Do you feel it's the same? Do you think it's shifted? And if so, like why?
there's several factors. I mean, I don't want to just blame gentrification, but you don't have, the people that are moving there. Give you an example for Atlanta, for example. It's like, these old neighborhoods, these people who are living in these houses now aren't from Atlanta, much less that neighborhood. And so, in addition to that, I think the community itself has become disconnected. So a lot of older people don't trust younger people anymore. Because they don't know them. And so then there's a narrative that these kids, that because they're in the street hanging out, doesn't mean that they're bad. It just means they don't, have anything to do.
Yeah.
But the disconnect is now, they're troublemakers, and that may not be the case
Mm-hmm.
all the
I,
time.
I can align. I can definitely align with that. I think that it's especially with my background in education and like in early childhood and elementary as well too. I think sometimes the kids are bored. I mean, that
They're
doesn't give
bored.
a right for all the things that stereotypically happen, of course, in our communities and things and such with kids.
There's a disconnect
There's
somewhere.
absolutely a
So
disconnect. Yes.
and there's no respect for themselves, so therefore they're not going to respect other people in situations. That's it. It's a disconnect. Even for the black people who are moving in to the community, they may not necessarily be from that community. We grew up in a time like my grandparents' house. Both their houses are still there.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, obviously they're not in them, but they're still there. They're still in the family.
Yes. Yeah, I think that I can't speak for everybody that's in Chicago. I actually learned this while I was going through my business class and hearing the different perspectives of two different sides of the coin, where some people spoke about their ancestry and their upbringing and things as such of it from a deficit. And then others who were in class spoke in regards to not having a lack for anything. So it's always two sides to the coin. Before Hope Hustlers, and before the business ventures and things and such that we'll be speaking about, who was Leonard? Who was Leonard before?
Leonard was he was something else. He was Leonard was a hustler before Hope Hustlers. Leonard was still a hustler. Um, I think, well, I always had a finance background. You know, my dad was a businessman. Um, you know, the rest of my family were blue collar. You know, my dad, one grandfather, he worked for the government and he was a pension agent. My other grandfather, he worked at the factory, and both my grandmothers were teachers. And so, you know, they had that ethic where, you know, get a job at the post office and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
But I was always, like I said, a bit more ambitious. So I wanted to be in finance. I wanted to work at the bank. I wanted to be where the money is.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, like I said, retract a little bit. My girl got pregnant and I had to be a man. So, you know, I had to get a job at the bank, but sometimes that bank job just wasn't cutting it. And so, um, you know, I just started hustling. I mean, you know, they used to say that my name is Lenny. If I ain't got it, there isn't any. So, uh, so, but yeah, so it ended up me leading two lifestyles in a sense, because as you know, in the 80s and 90s, cocaine was an economy. And, you know, I played a big part of that economy. Um, you know, it's a whole other live or whatnot, but, you know, we're not going to talk about how it got in the hood, but
Mm-hmm.
since it was there and it's an economy, let's make money off of it. So that's kind of where I went. But, my family really didn't know that I was doing it until, I think I called my mother on Mother's Day to bail me out because I got caught, um, out where I shouldn't be, somewhere with some stuff that I shouldn't have had. And that's like kind of the beginning of her under realizing that, dang, this kid, we didn't rent to Hampton. We raised this kid right here, out here, you know, selling drugs and doing shit on my, you know, on my watch. So that's kind of when she saw that other side of me. And then officially, that's back in 1990. That's when she started her nonprofit, just working with kids in the hood.
Mm-hmm.
Just because she's an educator anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but you know, as time went on, things just got out of hand. And I guess it was 20 something, right? You know, after that, you know, I just kept going in the business. I was still, you know, I ended up getting my stockbroker's license early on. Um, but you know, as a young black stockbroker in 1987, ain't nobody trying, you know, I don't have no old rich clients. Let me put it that way. So all my clients was dope boys and athletes.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's kind of how I went. And then I ended up I'm showing them how to open businesses and save money on their taxes. And, you know, I was really helping them with their finances. And one thing led to another. And before I look, you know, when you look back, I'm full blown in the business on both sides of the coin.
Right.
Well, and it all came to head in March of 2002.
Well, I appreciate your vulnerability because it takes you to be very strong to be able to speak about something so how about this, so internal to you, as well as just something that is that made a significant difference in your life and the trajectory of your life. So I really appreciate your vulnerability and your openness to be able to discuss that. I heard in the beginning, as you were saying, that you were like, that's a whole nother live in regards to like talking about how things get there and stuff like that. But can you like give a brief maybe summary, just so that people to kind of expand people's capacity, and because this channel is more or less in regards to history, right, and understanding.
Right.
Can you give
Right.
a brief understanding of like how opportunities like that came up? Because of course it wasn't just like one day, hey, drugs
Let's
are
just start
in,
doing it.
drugs are just
Right.
like, hey, it's right here, it's a pixie
Right.
dust. Things happen as like strategic. So can you talk kind of briefly about like the strategicness of the things that in fact took place kind of back then?
Yeah.
Because people
Yeah.
act like things that happened back then don't affect today.
No, it totally affected that. And so what happened was, let's say in the late 70s, in the mid to late 70s and early 80s, cocaine became a drug of the elite. So you had to have money to even afford to do cocaine. right? And then I would say in about 1984, 85, cocaine became very, very cheap in the hood.
Mm-hmm.
And because I was in both worlds, um, my friends and family and I got back in the hood, but I'm on Wall Street every morning, all day. And I noticed that this is okay. So what I noticed was the people that I was working with, the brokers, the white, the doctors, the lawyers, the stockbrokers, and all that, were paying a whole lot of money for cocaine. But I
Right.
could get it from over here for real way cheaper than what they were paying for it. So I became a middleman,
Right. I
if you
understand.
will. It became an economy. And then over time, now I'm getting more and more contacts. I'm never really, I'm always the middleman. I'm always the guy knowing the man next to the man. But over time, it became a business. It became a very, very lucrative business.
Mm-hmm.
And
Do you feel
yeah,
that it,
so
oh, sorry.
no, go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask, do you feel that it was pretty much set there kind of like intentionally in regards to
Uh,
like understanding the need and the plight of Black people at that time?
Most definitely. It was sent to destroy us, and it did. Eventually, when crack became the thing, that's when it really destroyed the community. Just wiped it out. And then that's and we've all seen the shows. We've seen Snowfall. We know about Freeway Rick and all them, and
Yes.
that was true. We know about Alpo and all. That's the same group of guys, and it was the reality. And I think, and we can say that the government put it there and the CIA and whatever. All I know was it was in the hood for very, very cheap.
Right.
And but again, the crack epidemic, and the thing there is that when the crack epidemic hit, they treated it like it was a criminal. They criminalized crack, and they criminalized those who were on crack.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you could have $10 worth of crack and get 1 to 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
They made it to so where if you get caught with crack as opposed to cocaine, it's 10 to 100 percent. I mean, 100 times more time that you would have to do on your sentences, the mandatory minimums. And
Mm-hmm.
so, yeah, it just wiped the community out. It criminalized like now, if you look at it, you got the opioid problem as a public health problem.
Mm-hmm.
The crack
Whereas
problem is
why
a public,
wasn't that seen as a public health? Yeah.
right?
I've
Whereas
definitely
that
heard
was
about
that was a
that
criminal
before.
problem. That's a public safety problem. Now it's a public health problem. Um, and so yeah, and that pretty much sums up the Leonard that I was before. I wasn't, I wouldn't consider myself to be a bad person, but I mean, when you're playing in that game, bad shit happens. Um, but I was not as humble as I am now. I wasn't, I mean, I wasn't, I didn't have empathy as I do now.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't call it selfish, but I was just an asshole. I'm still an asshole, let some people tell it. But at least but I think that's where the change, so actually that prison experience for me was God setting me down.
Mm-hmm.
And, when and during that process, he showed me how to use um, my strengths for my purpose, as opposed
Mm-hmm.
to using my strengths for making money and, you know, doing dumb shit. Just use it for your purpose. This is your purpose. That's where I found my purpose. And then I think that's also 2003 was when my mother strictly focused or started focusing on um, gang prevention and violence prevention, because
Mm-hmm.
she was starting to realize that some of the dudes that I hang that was that I trust these dudes if I'm bringing them around my mom, but she started to realize that, oh, these dudes is gang. they gang members.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, ma, but we're 34 now, so it's not the same.
It's not the
But
same thing. Mm-hmm.
it's not the same thing. But yeah, and so but that's when she started a nonprofit. So when she did that and I got out of prison, I kind of just hit the ground running with her and her model, which is now the model that we have for Hope Hustle.
Y'all don't kill me. And the conversation does not stop here. But completely forgot to do an outro while me and Leonard was talking. So the conversation continues to get deep. I will be posting part 2 on January 13th. So stay tuned.